forest looking for some exciting images of birds. Let's just see what we can get. Hi guys, I thought I'd just show you a little bit of a video, nice treat for you guys. I'm doing a test on the TT Artistan 500mm F6.3 lens. So we're doing some real world tests. I'm getting some pictures of trees and a little bit of wildlife that's around. I've come to the new Miller Dam in Wakefield. Hopefully you find this video informative. I'm just showing you a few real world examples of what the lens can achieve. A few video clips. It's been quite a big challenge to try and focus with this particular lens because it's manual focus and it's difficult when things are moving in and out of focus. So for that reason I wouldn't really recommend this lens as a wildlife lens. It's just really difficult and a challenge. If I get my RF 100 to 500 out, it's a breeze. It focuses on anything that's moving. It tracks really well with the R6 that we're using, and I don't have any problems in terms of focusing on anything. So obviously we've come to this lake, this park, just to test the lens out, compare it with the RF 100 to 500. But in general, I would rather use the 100 to 500. It's just so much easier. It's fluid, it's easy. But for the price, you can't beat the Artistan lens. 400 quid, possibly 300 if you can get a good deal. It's a steal at that price. And I think if I was a student many years ago, I would have killed for a lens like this. It's not bad in sharpness. It's not that bad. Considering the price, I think you're getting a bargain. So let me just show you around the park so you get an idea of where we are. So this is the park. I'm just going to do a quick pan so you can get to see what it's like. It's right next to a main road near Hilltop in Wakefield. Right guys, we've just come to the computer to look at a few samples of some real world images, obviously from the TT Artistan 500mm f6.3 prime lens, RF mount, and versus it, compare it with the Canon 100 to 500 RF 7.1 L lens. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at some comparisons so you guys can actually see the differences. So without further ado, let's just have a look at the examples we've got here, all at ISO 2000 f8, so we get the best results we can from these lenses. So this is the Artistan lens picture of this tree trunk with some moss. Looks nice, good detail, and not bad. One thing I did find is it was incredibly difficult and challenging to get sharp images because it has no image stabilization. So I had to use a tripod and try and keep the images as steady as possible, which was not easy at all. So obviously that's a bit of moss on the tree. Let's have a look at the Canon 100 to 500. Looks good as well. You will notice differences in contrast, but I thought both did produce good results. Although the Canon does tend to have a bit more contrast to it. I do prefer that over the TT lens. So let's move on. So that's the TT lens. Again, another close-up picture of a tree trunk, and you can see the detail there. Doesn't look too bad. Let's have a look at the Canon lens. A bit more contrast, obviously a bit more punchier. It does seem to be a tad bit sharper in areas, in the centre, obviously. And it's always possible user error can come into these images. So do take these samples with a pinch of salt, that because it's a manual lens that I'm using on the TT lens, I may have got the focus off a little bit, completely down to user error. It's a manual lens. It's all about how good you can focus with your eye to get these things sharp. So let's have a look at another TT image. We've got a swan here. Very, very challenging to take pictures of anything that moves on a manual focus lens. So this is the best I was able to achieve that day. Looks pretty good, actually. Not bad at all. It lacks a little bit contrast, but apart from that, not bad. I tried to take a similar image with the Canon lens in the next image, but it's not always that easy because things move. So that's an example of what you can achieve with the 100 to 500. One thing I did certainly notice was tracking. Tracking was invaluable for taking pictures of moving subjects. I have to be absolutely honest there. It's a game changer. And I certainly think I'd rather use the Canon lens on anything that moves. So I just thought I'd just mention that. Let's have a look at the next TT image. Okay, I tried to take a picture of this plaque that was actually on a bench, but it didn't come out that pin sharp. Now it could be user error, or it could be that the lens just wasn't doing a good job of presenting how sharp the actual text is. So let's have a look at the Canon lens. Obviously, you have to remember we have image stabilization in the 100 to 500 RF lens, which will make a difference. And if I go back to the TT lens image, it's possible there's some camera shake there that doesn't quite make it quite as sharp as I would like. The majority of some of these images were around the 100th of a second. Ideally, you want to have at least 500th of a second, but it was dark. It was near the end of the day. So just take these images with a pinch of salt, obviously. So let's go back to the Canon image. Obviously, you can tell it looks a lot nicer and really sharp. So let's have a look at another image of the TT lens. I tried to get a corner of the bench here to show the detail of the wood, and it looks pretty good. Actually, I don't think it's too bad. So let's have a look at the Canon lens, see how that did. Again, very similar. Very hard to tell them apart, if I'm honest with you. If I wasn't checking the file data information, and one thing to note is it doesn't report the aperture on the TT lens. It reports the aperture as 0 because a fully manual lens has no electronic connection. So it's basically a dumb lens. So you've just got to remember to try and figure out which picture was taken from which lens. I basically looked for aperture 0 to differentiate between the two, basically. So obviously that's the TT lens, and that's a Canon lens. Let's just zoom in there a little bit so you guys can see the detail. 100% on the TT lens, and let's have a look at the Canon. 100%. So that's the TT lens, guys. Good detail. I don't think there's any problems that I can see. I also found there was virtually no sort of distortion, like pincushion distortion, and vignetting was very, very well controlled. So I don't think you need to worry there. Both images are decent. I like them. So let's move on. So another image of a log that was in the water. I thought this would be an interesting picture to take of the TT lens. Again, it looks pretty good. I had to adjust the brightness to 66% in this particular image because I want to have it compare with the Canon, because the Canon tends to be a bit more richer in colours and brighter sometimes. So I thought I would up the brightness to 66% to compare it with the Canon image that we've got next. That's the Canon image. Again, it just feels more punchier, a bit more contrast in there. I think you won't be disappointed with either lens really for image quality. So that's the TT lens, that's the Canon lens, both reasonably good once you adjust it. So one more image that I decided to take was of some people that were just looking at the park. Basically, there are some branches in the way, so if you just focus on his head, let's zoom in there. This is the TT lens. It's not super sharp, tack sharp, but it's good enough. Let me know in the comments what you think, guys, but I don't think there's any real problems with this lens. So let's go back to the first image. I just want to zoom in there so you guys can actually see this on YouTube, because sometimes it doesn't always translate to the videos with YouTube compression. So let's zoom in at 100% on the TT lens and do the same with the Canon 100%. So that's the TT lens 100%. As you can see it's good detail. It's not tack sharp, but then you've got to remember it's only a £400 lens, you know, versus a 2,500 zoom lens on the Canon lens. Again, it's not too bad. Just to tend to be, it seems to me that the image looks a little bit soft, but because the shutter speed was about 100th of a second, even with image stabilization. So maybe if I upped my shutter speed a little bit more, but I didn't want to raise the ISO above 2000 just for the demonstration of this video. I like to keep the ISO as low as possible. So yeah, it's pretty good anyway. Let's move on, obviously, to something else. I thought it'd be interesting to zoom into the actual wildlife here on the TT lens, so you can see on YouTube. Let's go in there at 200%, guys. That's the detail we're getting out of the Artistan 500mm 6.3 lens. It's not bad. It's not tack sharp, but then again, you're only spending a small amount of money. I think a lot of us, like 20 years ago, would have killed for a lens like this, but there was obviously nothing in the market at that time, unless you're prepared to pay a lot of money. Let's just have a look at the Canon image that we've got here and zoom in there. Let's see if we can zoom in there at 200%. See if we've got some sort of comparison that you can see. So obviously that's the TT lens, and that's the Canon lens. So make your own mind up, guys. Thought I'd show you some real world images so you can see for yourself. Right, guys, thanks for watching. Been interesting testing these two lenses out, but for me, using the Canon 100 to 500 RF lens is just so much fluid and so much easier to use. Focus is a lot quicker with the R6, obviously, because it's not manual focus, and I can't really recommend it really in regards to using it in the field. It's just really awkward. Many years ago, when autofocus wasn't a thing, I could see people buying this lens. It would have been fantastic, and it does a good job for static subjects, but for fast moving subjects I think you're better off using something else. Anyway, thanks for watching, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.